A child should not earn your love. You should give them love. It is their birthright. Ibu rumah tangga tuh nggak cuman we are the leaders. We are the backbone of a nation. Posting fashion, posting beauty, it's okay. Tapi if you have a massive following, it doesn't make you special. It makes you responsible. If you don't nurture your wife, you don't nourish your wife, you don't take care of her, it's gonna backfire on the husband. For me, women are not just baby makers. When you become a parent, you get a second chance of living life better because you get to do it again, but in a better way, because you remember when you were a child what you didn't like or what you loved, and then you have to avoid what you didn't like to your own kids. So that's a second chance.
Welcome to Uncensored with Andini Effendi. This episode is very special, not because it's nepotism, but also karena saya kedatangan teman yang tiba-tiba baru sebenarnya tapi langsung jadi kayak ngeleket kayak super glue karena nggak tahu nyambung aja gitu. Dan juga she's an author of a best-selling book, Can I Talk to You? Udah kecetakan ketiga sekarang, masih bestseller di berbagai toko buku yang ada di Nusantara ini. Please welcome Kania Anissa Anggianin. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for finally talking with me. Akhirnya loh kamu di Uncensored. Ya. Also Kania selain dari author, dia adalah Access Bar practitioner
And facilitator.
facilitator. Buat yang nggak tahu apa Access Bar, nanti apa sih Access Bar itu?
It's basically energy work.
Oke.
Mungkin orang banyak yang salah kaprah bahwa Access Bars itu kayak semacam kayak Reiki ya. Kalau Reiki itu kan transfer energy. Kalau Access Bars kita justru release energy.
How would you explain it to people yang masih nggak paham?
Kalau dia access itu nggak ada yang istilahnya positive or negative energy. Energy is just energy.
Right.
How is it negative and positive? Itu is just people's perception. Kayak misalnya kalau mereka ngerasa mereka lagi panas, lagi marah, lagi kesel, itu mereka bilangnya negatif. Nah, I think ini juga sesuatu yang harus kita break ya. Bahwa emotion is just emotion. Karena emotion itu kan energy motion. Jadi sebenarnya kita harus mulai membiasakan bahwa semua emosi itu welcome. All emotions are normal. Cuman kita kebanyakan dari kecil dibilangin bahwa kalau kita marah, kesel, kita tuh dibilang nakal, ya kan, dibilang ngelawan. Jadi sehingga kita mengasosiasikan diri emosi-emosi ini menjadi emosi negatif.
Yeah.
Padahal sebenarnya emotion is just emotion, it's just energy. And that's what we try to neutralize kalau kita lagi melakukan access bars ke klien atau ke teman gitu. Yang kita rilis itu bukan energi negatifnya, tapi yang kita rilis adalah apa yang udah nggak works for you.
Right.
Karena you have so many limitations. We have so many limitations since we were little. Kita dikasih tahu kita nggak bisa ini, kita dibilang bagusnya cuma itu, kita dibilang anak pemalu lalu kita percaya bahwa kita pemalu, kita dibilang anak yang penakut lalu kita percaya kita penakut. Those are limitations put on us. And unconsciously we adapt to it and we believe that that's our reality gitu. Nah itu kan akhirnya jadi kayak semacam pembatas untuk kita maju ya, untuk kita berkarya, untuk kita mewujudkan cita-cita.
Yeah.
Jadi itu yang kita berusaha rilis, tapi harus ada conscience dan kesadaran bahwa memang dia mau merilis apa yang udah nggak works for them. Because we cannot help someone yang orang itu nggak mau dibantu kan.
Betul.
We can only help someone if they want help.
Yeah.
Jadi that consciousness harus ada dulu bahwa I need to release whatever that doesn't work for me anymore, and that's what we help you.
Dan aku pengen tahu juga karena kamu sejak kapan tuh mulai well-being, conscious of your mental health, just basically conscious of yourself. Aku ngeliatnya sih. Sejak kapan?
I think I've always been conscious, tapi I went through postpartum depression when I gave birth to my firstborn, to Lula.
Tahun berapa?
Itu 2011. Jadi aku melahirkan dia 2011. Lalu 2011-2012 itu it was a very tough, dark phase in my life. Tapi itu juga because of myself juga ya, karena aku idealisme gitu loh, kayak gak mau pakai nanny, gak mau pakai suster. Pokoknya I can do it by myself, and I think I'm capable to be handling this baby by myself with my husband. Tapi ternyata 6 months after I gave birth, my husband went back to work. He went back to his normal life. Dan ternyata I felt so unfair karena every single day He get to go back to work, to his normal life, doing what he loved doing, and I was stuck at home with a baby. Not that it's the baby's fault, right? Tapi I felt like, oh my God, is this gonna be my life gitu kan?
Padahal kamu kerja juga pada saat itu kan?
I resigned when I was 6 months pregnant because aku ada complication. Jadi the doctors recommended me bed rest aja. And then I wanted to like udah take a break aja deh, nggak mau resign gitu kan, karena I love my job. I was working in broadcasting. Terus tapi my husband bilang kamu kan bisa return to work kapan aja, like why would you like take a break tapi nggak certain gitu kan. You can always come back to work anytime you want, karena that was our deal when we got married. Salah satu syarat aku adalah aku nggak mau dilarang-larang kerja. If you want someone yang obedient, yang manut sama kamu, yang nurut, go find someone else. It's not me. So that's just one of many syarat gitu ya. I can go on with this list. Tapi so he said, yaudah kamu bisa balik lagi kerja kapan aja kamu mau. Tapi aku pikir, yaudah deh, aku take a break aja nggak apa-apa deh. Maybe it's just like a year, no problem. Akhirnya aku take a break. Nah tapi ternyata aku stres banget. Karena I felt that it was unfair, that why should be me yang taking care of the baby? Why not him yang stay home? Why kenapa nggak gue yang kerja terus lo di rumah aja jaga anak gitu? Yeah, anyway, the setup was like that. And then I went through postpartum depression, and then I went through counseling, therapy, and then itu ada shift of consciousness di saat itu, bahwa I remember my therapist to bilang the only person that can get you out of this is you. And my mom also told me the same thing.
Your mom is also a therapist.
Yes, she's also a therapist. Jadi I try to hold back as much as I can. Tapi every time I talk to her, like, how did you face motherhood, early motherhood back then gitu kan? Karena I'm so stressed out, I'm so tired gitu kan. Dia bilang you need to find an outlet. Whatever that is, whether it's reading a book, whether it's meditation, whether it's writing, journaling, whatever. Dan itu inline sama terapis aku juga bilang pada saat itu. My counselor was in Australia pada saat itu. Kenapa? Karena it was so hard to find resources di Indonesia. Back then, 2011 to 2012, nobody was talking about mental health.
Yeah.
Nobody was normalizing going counseling, going to psychologist, ya kan. I had to find books dari luar negeri, import segala macam buat kirim ke Indonesia. Iya ada sih toko buku yang jual, tapi it wasn't that much kayak sekarang. It's not as accessible as today. Jadi I had to find resources, and I have to admit that I am very privileged that I could get these resources. So I took it all in. Aku baca buku, aku ikut courses dari rumah, apalah yang bisa aku kerjain di dalam rumah gitu. And that's also cikal bakal Chicken Darling, because it was an outlet of therapy for me.
That's your blog.
That awalnya kan dari blog.
Yeah.
And then I started selling pillows.
Okay.
Gitu. And then I started selling kayak cushion covers, napkins, table mats, everything I made from home.
Yeah.
So my mother-in-law gave me a vintage mesin jahit yang udah tua banget. Udah pokoknya sebenarnya udah rusak tapi dibenerin sama aku. Yaudah, and then I use that as a toy to like make whatever that I can find, scraps around the house, and then make like things that I use. It was not intentionally to sell to people, because I started like mulai berkarya lagi kan, mulai memberdayakan diri lagi, and then aku udah mulai memberanikan untuk hire karyawan gitu. Aku hire tukang jahit, jadi dia bisa bantuin aku jahit, aku desain, dia jahit, lalu kita kerjain sama-sama gitu. Nah tapi balik lagi ke pertanyaan kamu, Din, like how did it start? It started from there, because if it wasn't because of Chicken Darling, I think I wouldn't build that consciousness within me, knowing that we as a human being need an outlet. We need a platform.
Yeah.
And we cannot expect other people to give it to us. We need to give it to ourselves. And if I didn't give that to myself, maybe I wouldn't be here sitting with you talking about this.
Yeah.
And then the consciousness just raised every time I reinvent myself. Jadi Chicken Darling was an outlet to reinvent myself. And ever since then, I believe that ya memang kita harus do it for us gitu. And our children needs to see that. They need to see that motherhood should not be the only goal of every woman. I mean, it's just part of life. It's not the end goal. It's not the final destination. Because one day kita bakal jadi empty nesters juga kan.
Yeah.
For those who have kids, there will be empty nesters. I mean, for me that's the goal ya.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to have like adult children living with me.
Yeah.
Ya kan? That's the goal. But one day if they leave the house and we become empty nesters, I'm still me.
Yeah.
I don't lose my self identity. And I think that's what happened to most mothers, terutama di Indonesia. They lost their identity because they put the kids as the center of their life for forever.
Yeah.
So when the kids leave house, their home, mereka jadi bingung kan mesti ngapain, mereka jadi sedih, mereka I mean it's a phase lah. I mean aku juga belum nyampe tahap situ ya. Tapi what I'm doing right now with whatever that with whether it's a book, whether it's a project, whether it's a business, it's just a way of keeping me, keeping me Kania,
Yeah.
and I love it. It's just, and my kids adore it. Like they see it as a what's possible.
Ya, ya. Menurutku juga sehat banget ngelihat orang tua yang aktif gitu ya. Especially kalau jangan kan udah punya anak. Ketika dia nikah pun, perempuan nikah, tiba-tiba dia punya identitas baru kan. Jadi ibu siapa? Kamu ibu Ruben jadinya.
Yes.
Right?
No, actually I don't like called Ibu Ruben.
Nah,
I don't like, and I never change my last name.
jadi kamu nggak pernah nambahin last name?
I always said to Ruben, I will never change my last name because my last name is my dad's given last name, and I will always be his daughter. Tapi you are my husband, so we're partners. Because kalau aku ambil last name dia Hattari, berarti kan anak bapak dia. Sedangkan Hattari itu kan nama bapaknya. Nah, I don't want that. I don't want the tradition. Because my mom juga gak begitu.
Yeah.
So I'm not doing that. So I keep myself as Kania Anis Anggiani, dia Ruben Hattari. Ya udah, that's it.
Yeah.
Kita dua identitas yang berbeda. I don't have to carry your last name.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean I'm not proud to be his wife. I'm very proud to be his wife. But I am me.
Ya, ya. Kan banyak ya kalau di Indonesia kan pasti akan langsung jadi ibu siapa nama suaminya. And then we see this phenomenon juga ternyata nyambung ke how they react in society.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I know you're very vocal about this type of issues yang regarding women has to have a voice, especially women in power because of the husband.
Yes.
There's a post, waktu itu Kania posting dan rame sekali karena Kania minta agar istri-istri yang nikah dengan penguasa itu harusnya punya suara.
Ini surat terbuka untuk perempuan-perempuan yang berlindung di balik kekuasaan. Yang terhormat Ibu Iriana, Mbak Silvi, Mbak Kahiyang Ayu, Ibu Titik Soeharto, istri dan anak-anak perempuan mantan Presiden Republik Indonesia, ibu-ibu menteri, dan istri-istri dari anggota dewan yang terhormat. Where are you?
Which I think is true, I agree.
Yeah.
Harusnya mereka bisa punya peran yang lebih daripada sekedar hanya istri, pendamping.
Sekedar aksesoris, lebih dari sekedar aksesoris, and I believe that they are actually. But what's keeping them? What's holding them back? They should ask themselves that. What is it? Are they scared? Kehilangan privilege? Apa mereka takut dijudge? Apa mereka takut dimarahin suaminya? Apa? What? Karena when I married Ruben, before I married Ruben, tadi kan salah satu syaratnya adalah I still wanna work ya. Kalau lo nggak mau gue kerja, lo cari orang lain. Karena gue juga nggak ngebet-ngebet banget pengen kawin pada saat itu. Nah, salah satu syarat yang kedua adalah do not expect me to be obedient. Jadi, if I see something that is not aligned with my value, I will challenge you. Itu salah satu yang aku ingetin dia. Are you ready with that? Because I will challenge you. Jadi whatever decision, whatever regulation, whatever thinking yang that you take at home, I will challenge you. Kecuali emang udah langsung setuju ya. Karena kan pada saat you come together with a partner, you come from two very different backgrounds, different upbringing, different environment, different education, ya kan, even probably different religion. So you basically bring in different values and then you combine it together, ya kan. Nah, tapi kan untuk combine it together itu kan you need to find a middle ground. There will be differences, but you need to find a middle ground. Apa yang kita mau ciptakan baru untuk keluarga kita gitu kan. Karena I don't want to carry plek-plek value dari mama papa. Dia terus kita paksain gitu kan nggak mungkin. Makanya that's why so many people divorce. If I'm not willing to find a middle ground and he's not willing to find a middle ground, kita nggak akan bisa menciptakan value yang kita sepakati yang mau kita pakai untuk anak-anak dan di rumah, ya kan. Nah, when he have ideas atau when he ngomong aja sesimpel misalnya dia ngeliat berita terus dia ngomong sesuatu terus aku nggak setuju, gitu ya. Nah, dia tuh siap kalau aku tuh akan men-challenge dia dengan perspektif yang berbeda. Karena pada saat menikah, sebelum menikah aku udah ngingetin dia kalau gue nggak akan submit 100% sama ide-ide atau value atau nilai-nilai kamu ya, karena kita datang dari kehidupan yang berbeda gitu. But if you're ready for me to challenge you, I mean I won't challenge you all the time, but there will be challenges, and I'm also willing to accept challenges from you. And then he said, yeah, okay. So I think if we are brave enough to challenge our partners in a positive way, kita tuh bisa jadi moral kompas suami kita. Sama-sama jadi moral kompas. Jadi kita we check up on each other. Kayak misalnya contoh, my husband itu kan works in policy.
Yeah.
He deals with regulations, right? And most of the regulations itu kan gak easy ya. Apalagi dealing with different countries,
Right.
different governments. And governments are very complicated, right? And salah satu hal yang menarik dari rumah tangga kita adalah we talk about work with each other. I talk about my work, he talks about his work. Although kita gak 100% ngerti ya. Kita kan gak ngerti banget nitty-gritty-nya kayak gimana. Tapi bigger picture-nya tuh the challenges apa, kita suka ngebahas kayak minta, just pick each other's brain,
Yeah.
And then ada hal-hal yang aku ngerasa kayak, do you really need to do that?
Yeah.
Atau can you like rethink it if it's wise enough? Like, can you think about the long term? Can you think about the implications? Things like that itu udah biasa di meja makan kita. So I don't know whether most wives do this at home or not. I don't know. Tapi my mom does it. My grandmother does it to their partners. And I believe ya, ini menurut keyakinan saya ya. Ini yang membuat karir kakekku dan karir bapakku itu baik in a way, bukan baik sukses banget, tapi baik gitu. Sehat. Karena istri-istrinya yang vokal.
Yeah.
Dan dia yang menjadi benteng suaminya. Jangan sampai korupsi, jangan sampai bawa uang haram pulang ke rumah, jangan sampai ngasih makan anak-anaknya dengan uang yang gak jelas dari mana, jangan sampai dia mengambil keputusan yang merugikan orang lain, jangan sampai dia tidak menjalankan good governance di dalam company-nya. Itu semua ya karena istrinya, karena pasangannya yang have this conversation at home. And that's what I'm trying to do with my partner. Gitu. Ya of course kita gak 100% ngerti, tapi kan kita gak bego-bego banget ya. Makanya aku setuju banget bahwa istri atau perempuan itu harus sekolah, harus belajar, harus sekolah, harus baca. Walaupun dia cuma jadi ibu rumah tangga, kata-kata cuman itu juga aku sebel ya. Karena menurut aku jadi ibu rumah tangga tuh gak cuman. We are the leaders of the world.
A lot of work.
We are the backbone of a nation. Ibu itu adalah the backbone of a nation. Jadi ibu tuh harus pintar. Pintar kenapa? Karena dia yang mendidik anak-anak dan suaminya.
Dan kritis juga kali ya.
Iya, jadi kita jadi punya critical thinking gitu. Kita jadi punya filter. Kita jadi ngejagain anak-anak dan ngejagain suami kita. Karena I believe we are warriors. We are the warriors and the armors of the family. Gitu. I'm very passionate when I'm talking about this karena I feel like women need to step up a little bit gitu. In terms of that the relationship between husband and wife ya.
Yeah, especially mungkin gini, ada ketimpangan ketika laki-lakinya tentu saja kebanyakan menjadi breadwinner dalam keluarga.
Yes.
Jadi mau nggak mau kan aku yang bawa makanan ini ke meja makan.
I don't 100% believe that. What I believe from all the informal education that I've taken the past few years, uang yang masuk ke dalam keluarga atau rezeki yang masuk ke dalam keluarga itu nggak solely karena suaminya. Not 100% because of the husband. There are a big chunk of that coming from the wife's energy. So if the wife is happy, nurtured, nourished, that's attracting the abundance. That's attracting the abundance for the husband. We are the blessing for them. Tapi kalau istrinya nggak taken care of, nggak well nourished, nggak well nurtured, nggak happy, nggak terpenuhi kebutuhan emosinya, suaminya belum tentu baik-baik aja. Aku banyak banget nih dalam kehidupan nyataku ya, di sekelilingku aja lah ya, inner circle aku. Itu banyak banget terbukti. I don't know, I'm pretty sure if I ask you would pay attention to your sekelilingnya. Perhatikan Ada teman-temanku yang suaminya itu sangat pelit sama istrinya, sangat perhitungan di dalam kehidupan rumah tangganya, dan dia punya mindset bahwa istri gue kan kerja, jadi ngapain gue provide buat dia, gue provide buat anak-anak aja. Lihat rezeki suaminya, lancar apa seret? Itu kenyataannya di dalam lingkunganku aja. Banyak suami-suami yang akhirnya jadi jatuh. Either dia jatuh, kehidupannya pas-pasan, kerjaannya gitu-gitu aja, gak thriving. Ada pekerjaan tapi gak thriving. You wanna thrive in life,
Yeah.
right? And if you don't nurture your wife, you don't nourish your wife, you don't take care of her, it's gonna backfire on you. It's gonna backfire on the husband. Either dia karirnya nggak lancar, either dia makan melakukan illicit conduct, pekerjaannya tidak jujur, apalah whatever that is. Itu, so that's why I'm saying that the feminine and the masculine energy is very synchronized. And if it's not synchronized, something will be imbalanced. Something will fall imbalance gitu.
It's crazy. Wow, I never thought of it that way ya. Tapi it's so interesting. Kalau berarti konsep the happy wife, happy life is
Correct. Yes.
literally.
Literally.
Dan itu bukan hanya sekedar dikasih duit doang terus dia happy.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, women are not just baby makers. Ya, makanya aku suka bilang sama orang-orang bahwa girls, we are stronger than you think. We are more powerful than you think, that you feel. Kenapa? Karena kita itu sumber kehidupan. Rahim kita itu sumber kehidupan. Dan ini rahim itu tuh cuman simbol loh. Bukan hanya kayak oh iya perempuan bisa melahirkan, bisa menyusui. Itu tuh cuman simbol loh. That's why bumi disebut Mother Earth. Kenapa? Because we nurture, the Mother Earth nurtures you. They give you everything you need. But in return, you have to give back. You have to take care of the earth. So we are Mother Earth. If you nurture me, I will give you 10 times abundance.
Yeah.
If you take care of me, oh, your life will be full of blessings. And that is a promise. And that's what I always remind husbands. I remind my husband juga. Like, whatever that you receive now, it's not solely because of you. It's because of me. Because I'm taken care of. You take care of me. So you have to be careful with your words, with your attitude, with your behavior. Kalau misalnya seorang istri sakit hati, siap-siap aja. Ini bukan aku jumpain ya, karena udah kejadian banyak banget dalam kehidupan nyataku. Kalau seorang istri itu udah sakit hati, merasa terhianati, it's not gonna be long.
Yeah.
That your life will go down the fucking hill.
Karena
It's
doa
not gonna
istri
be
aku
long.
percaya sih.
Yes.
Doa istri itu makbul banget. Tapi do you believe in equality in marriage?
I believe in equity.
Okay, tell me more.
I believe we have our own portion. Kita nggak bisa dipukul rata. Dan aku juga gak expect dia melakukan yang seimbang. Karena I think I'm gonna go crazy juga kalau he's doing 50-50 with me. So I believe in equity. Jadi I will amplify your talent, you amplify my talent. Like for example, Ruben is really good with like around the house, fixing whatever, being the man, you know, doing the plumbing, fixing the chairs, you know,
Cooking.
doing the hard handyman work. Ya kan?
He's a good cook too.
He cooks, and that's also one of my shout out. When I find a husband, he has to know how to cook because I just want to eat. I just want to open my mouth and eat and feed me good food. And I got it. Jadi aku percaya dengan amplifying our talent. Jadi I will let him do what he's really good at. Jadi in a way sebenarnya Ruben tuh sangat bergantung sama aku juga sangat bergantung sama dia. And we love it that way. There are things that I'm really good at, there are things that he's better than me, ya. So, tapi aku nggak akan berusaha sosok tahu untuk kayak ngerjain yang aku kurang mahir di situ gitu loh.
Yeah.
I will let him do what he's good at. And apa ya? Aku ngerasa kayak aku nggak perlu tuh use all my brain cells when I'm with him. I mean, I don't need to lead all the time. I will let him lead, and he will let me lead. Like when he's not at home, I'm the leader. Ya kan? When he's not at home, and he's rarely at home, he comes home weekends, ya kan? Tapi when he's at home, I let him take the charge.
Yeah.
So we know when to take the pilot and kapan yang jadi pilot, kapan jadi co-pilot gitu. And so far it's working ya.
Kamu ngelihat itu dari papa mamamu waktu kamu kecil?
Iya dan enggak. Jadi my mom itu jauh lebih kuat presence di rumah karena my father itu kan works for the government. He works for BUMN. So basically his life was work. Gitu. His life was work. Jadi dia berangkat pagi, pulang malam udah capek. It was very rare that he was with us during bedtime. It was very rare for him, reading a story for us. It was rare for him to take me to lessons. Everything was done by my mom. Gitu. Jadi in a way, memang influence my mom is a very powerful force in my life.
Yeah.
Tapi lucunya, the absence of my father during my growing years was filled by my grandfather, who was a very patriarch.
Yeah.
He's a very strong.
Dari mama nih?
Dari mama, very strong male. And I think he is the number one powerful male figure in my life. After that baru my dad. Karena memang tidak bisa dipungkiri, selama aku tumbuh dari kecil sampai aku remaja, bapakku tuh sibuk kerja. Dia pulang hanya malam. Nah, mulai ada relationship itu pas aku kuliah. Jadi pas aku kuliah, aku setiap pulang ke Indonesia, my dad would like take me to dinner, would take me to meet his colleagues, meet his business partners, people yang dia berhubungan dengan kerjaan. Tapi pada saat itu aku punya kepentingan untuk networking.
Yeah.
Jadi it was not solely father-daughter moment, but it was more like, oh, after this I will have to find a job, so I might as well network from now on.
Yeah.
My grandfather was a very powerful force in my life because whatever you see me today, like people see me kan kayak berani banget, apa kayak bacot banget lah, apa. Terus aku cenderung kayak ya aku nggak terlalu banyak mikirin apa kata orang lah. I do what I do aja gitu. Like I do me, you do you gitu kan.
Yeah.
I got it from his energy. So he's a very male, he's very strong. He was a good leader. He used to work for the government juga, but he was a very rebel person. So he was rebelling against the government. And I think a lot of my political views, a lot of my passion for social justice came from him and from my grandmother, because my grandmother was a judge. So I saw this powerful relationship justru dari kakek nenekku. Karena my grandmother was one of the first female judge.
Yeah.
And then my grandfather was a very successful banker. Gitu. He was one of the founding fathers of Bank BUMN lah. I don't want to say it.
Okay.
So I saw them. I grew up watching their relationship.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that their marriage is perfect. It's far from perfect. But my grandmother was the moral compass of my grandfather. Gitu. Dan mereka berdua sama-sama walaupun berbeda, mereka punya value yang sama, yaitu kejujuran, integrity. That they will never want to be doing shady business or doing money under the table or doing nepotism. They will never ever. They would rather die defending justice than to submit.
Gitu ya.
The dignity is extremely high. And when I was in high school, I witnessed so many incidents coming to their house. Nenekku dapat ancaman lah. Dari karena she was dealing with dangerous cases yang dealing with the government.
Wow.
Ya yang kelihatan kayak sekarang aja, dikirimin apa untuk ancaman-ancaman gitu. I saw it with my own eyes. And there was police. It was like a norm.
Ini kita ngomongin zaman Orde Baru ya.
Zaman Orde Baru. And it's still happening until now, right?
Yeah.
And so because of that, mungkin itu yang bikin aku tuh sangat passionate talking about social justice, talking about politics. Walaupun I can't say that I'm an activist, like real activist ya. There are many people yang deserving to be an activist, but I'm an activist in my own right. I try to use my platform with whatever that I can, using my voice, because that's my commitment. If I have a platform, I'm gonna use it for a greater good, and I'm gonna use it to voice something. Gak cuman kayak posting cantik-cantik. I mean, itu gak apa-apa, kayak posting fashion, posting beauty, it's okay. Tapi if you have a massive following, it doesn't make you special, it makes you responsible.
That's true.
And I feel so responsible with my platform. whatever that I put out, whatever that I carry, I am responsible for that. Gitu. Jadi ya kita memang harus siap ya.
Ya,
Kalau apapun yang kita put out there, ya memang kita harus siap dengan konsekuensinya.
banget.
Ada yang suka, ada yang enggak, ada yang setuju, ada yang enggak. Ya udah. But masa mau berdiam diri nggak ngapa-ngapain, ya kan?
Ya, dan kakek nenek kamu memang biasa itu berdemokrasi dalam keluarga.
Berdemokrasi gimana maksudnya?
Maksudnya ngomong outspoken.
No, it was more him melakukan orasi karena dia itu sangat powerful di keluarga. Jadi dia itu orang sosok yang ditakutin,
Ya.
sosok yang sangat otoriter, sosok yang sangat aku nggak bilang VOC ya, tapi gaya parenting itu memang sangat authoritarian,
Oke.
sangat authoritarian. Tapi hubungan aku dengan dia berbeda dengan hubungan dia dengan anak-anaknya. Anak-anaknya itu takut sama dia, aku nggak. Mungkin karena aku cucu pertama. Jadi I have a special relationship with him.
Ya.
And I'm very privileged with that because when I speak, he actually listens.
Ya.
And I don't know how I earned that kind of respect from him. I don't know. Tapi I did earn that kind of respect from him. So when we're just the two of us, we can actually communicate. Itu yang kadang my aunts and my uncles tuh bingung. Kayak, kok dia bisa sih dengerin seorang anak kecil ini gitu. Karena he wouldn't like scream at me the way he scream at their kids, at his kids.
Ya.
He would just like kesel. He would disagree with me, tapi he wouldn't like shut me down immediately. You know what I mean?
Ya.
Yeah. So I think I owe a lot of my power from him and from my grandmother, because if it wasn't because of them, I wouldn't be who I am today, and I wouldn't be writing a book. I wouldn't be speaking here.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be talking to you. I wouldn't be having a platform, with people actually listening to my yapping.
Nah, yapping lah. Itu lebih kepada omongan bermutu.
No, it is yapping.
Hai teman-teman, banyak sekali ternyata dari kalian yang belum subscribe channel ini. Jadi please jangan lupa untuk subscribe Cauldron Content. Kamu tuh ngelihat papa mama kamu, the dynamic of
Yeah.
the relationship, apa yang membuat kamu tuh kayak learn a lot from that dan you implement it in your own marriage?
I learned a lot that ada hal-hal yang aku mau, ada hal-hal yang aku juga nggak mau dari mereka. Dan I think without consciousness, I cannot do that. I cannot break the cycle.
Yeah.
Ada hal-hal kebiasaan-kebiasaan atau tradisi-tradisi dari mereka berdua yang aku adore, kayak their partnership ya, especially semenjak papaku pensiun, papaku lebih banyak ikut sama mamaku kan, karena dia sangat suportif sama kegiatan ibuku gitu. Itu that I respect, that I adore, karena banyak
Selalu kayak gitu nggak papa?
semenjak pensiun.
Oh,
Karena waktu dia belum pensiun kan dia masih sibuk dengan
Sibuk.
kehidupannya sendiri.
Tapi tetap support mama kerja.
Sangat.
Oke.
Itu yang aku selalu sama bapakku.
Oke.
Jadi walaupun bapakku itu sibuk dan fokus dengan karirnya, dia nggak pernah melarang ibuku transformasi. Transformasi itu apa? Ibuku tetap traveling, ibuku belajar ke sana kemari. Ibuku itu kan seeker ya. She's a seeker. So when other moms sibuk arisan, sibuk attending social events, busy being ladies who lunch, my mom was busy traveling, educating herself
Yeah.
in retreats, in ashrams, in college, in universities, sibuk absorbing knowledge and wisdom so she can simply parent at home better. And at the same time dia juga kan educator. So I think DNA dia educating people emang udah ada gitu dari sananya. And I think that's the basis of why she's very passionate about knowledge.
Yeah.
Tapi bagaimana dia mengimplement di rumah itu lebih penting buat dia ketimbang dia implement di luar sana. Nah, tapi bapakku nggak pernah ngelarang. Gak pernah, dan setiap ibuku pulang dengan membawa ilmu baru gitu ya yang mau dipraktekkan, bapakku tuh willing to like go along with it gitu loh. Enggak yang kayak apaan sih gitu, enggak.
Oh wow.
Enggak yang kayak suppress it atau make her feel small, atau nggak pernah kayak belajar apa lagi gitu kayak ayo gitu, walaupun dia nggak langsung ngerti gitu ya. Maksudnya kan walaupun you are married to someone, your level of intellectuality kan nggak sama. Your level of consciousness and your level of intellectuality is not the same. Nah, my father tried. Walaupun dia gak sama level of intellectuality-nya, karena he doesn't read juga as much as my mom. Tapi dia coba, dan itu aku udah sangat respect itu gitu. Dan I think itu yang salah satu yang aku mau ambil gitu, bahwa we have to support each other's growth, ya kan?
Yeah.
We have to support each other's pace juga, karena everyone has a different pace. Dan my father itu always positive karena dia selalu ngeliat ibuku tuh kayak, mungkin dia bangga kali ya ngeliat istrinya thriving gitu. Dan dia itu sekarang menjadi inspirasi dia untuk juga ikut sama ibuku. Karena dia melihat kali, oh ternyata nggak ada istilah yang namanya pensiun ya. Gitu. Karena bapakku itu adalah byproduct dari orang tua yang melihat karir itu untuk uang, pekerjaan untuk menghidupi diri. Sekedar itu aja. Gitu. Dan unfortunately, that's not the mindset that I want to pass on to myself and to my children. Because for me, a job should empower you.
Yeah.
It should fulfill you. And it should be your catalyst of change. And it should be beyond your profession, menurut aku.
Yeah.
It's a skill.
Yeah. And beyond your identity juga.
Iya.
Gitu loh.
You should not define yourself based on your job. Because a job is just a job. It comes and goes. So for me, I have no problem if one day, let's say, misalnya anakku, let's say Galan, my son gitu ya. One day he started his career, let's say, as a filmmaker, and then one day he decided to shift as an author, and then decided to shift as a lawyer, whatever. Karena apa? Ya jelas skillnya sama. He's good with people. He has high intellectual, ya kan? Skillnya tuh apa dulu gitu loh. Karena when you have the skill, whatever job that you have, you will thrive. Because you're not defined by your profession. Nah, what I saw from my mom and dad, the difference is my father was raised to work for money karena yang penting dia bisa memenuhi kebutuhan. Begitu bapakku pensiun, dia agak bingung. Dia jadi mencari lagi.
Yeah.
Hobi gue apa ya? Di luar. Karena selama itu dia mengasosiasikan dirinya adalah banker.
Well.
But is he passionate about banking? Not really. Is he passionate about finance? Belum tentu. Did he educate us about money? No. But he was good at what he does. He's good as a banker. But after he's pensiun, and then what?
Yeah.
Nah, sedangkan my mom, whatever she evolved into, she will thrive because the profession doesn't define who she is.
Yeah.
She's a writer. She's an educator. She's a speaker. Ya kan? She's an artist. She's just a soul.
Yeah.
Yang know who she is. And that's the kind of example that I want to pass on to my children, that do not define by a profession. A profession can have an expiry date, but you don't have an expiry date. Your energy that doesn't have an expiry date. As long as you live, whether you're sick, whether you're 16 or 60, you can be whoever you want. You can always reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
And
Also, character doesn't have an expiration date.
Exactly. And that's what I saw from my grandmother. Dia sampai tutup usia loh, Andin, masih memimpin yang namanya Law Ladies Associate. She built a law firm, all women, and only focusing on membela hak anak dan perempuan.
Wah, masih ada sampai sekarang.
Udah meninggal.
Oh, tapi the firm?
The firm sekarang run by my aunt.
Oh.
So my aunt is the predecessor. She's the youngest of the sibling.
Oh.
She's the youngest of the LLA, Law Ladies Associate, and the clients are all women. And she did a lot of pro bonos, even for women yang nggak privileged. So she took a lot of money from the privileged people and subsidized for the women yang not in power. So her client was like ministers, lawyers juga, women in power, women in government.
Oh wow, oh I should talk to her. Iya gak sih? Iya gak? Terus tapi oke, jadi gini, your mom also a guest di kita di Uncensored, Tante Rani. Tante Rani is a certified conscious marriage counselor,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. But she also dia prefer to be called educator.
Educator, yeah. So and then aku lihat beberapa kali kamu juga bawa Ruben
Yeah.
untuk the therapy itself, whether it's
Yes,
group,
yes.
maybe you did one-on-one too ya?
I did
Fanny?
one-on-one. We did a group.
Ya,
Yeah.
itu kan something yang is a bit foreign di Indonesia, it still is foreign loh untuk
Yeah.
bawa your spouse
Yes.
to therapy,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
How did you convince your husband waktu pertama kali?
Well, I said if you love me, you come. You have no choice. It's as simple as that.
Itu kan dari istrinya berarti.
Again, it's from the wife. If you love me, you come. No negotiation. If you think this marriage is important, then you come. If you think that this marriage is secondary, then ya udah, then it explains.
Yeah.
But if you think like I think that this marriage should always comes first before the children, comes first before our work, comes first before our parents, then you come. Because this is a long-term investment for our relationship. And ternyata dia enjoy banget. Every counseling session, every workshops that we attended, he loved it.
Itu ngerubah perkawinan kalian nggak dengan ikut terapi?
Sangat.
Really?
It's what I say it's the best investment for our marriage. Yes.
Apa sih yang dilakuin dalam terapi? Because I'm not married, so I don't know. Apa sih yang dilakukan couples therapy itu?
We did a lot of the it's a very comprehensive activity ya.
Yeah.
Jadi it's not just like kita ngomong, ada kegiatannya juga, ada yoga for couples,
Okay.
ada meditation for couples, terus ada nulis surat buat satu sama lain, terus ada gali tentang masa lalu, ada yang namanya my mom's signature chapter, ada signature program namanya Finding Your Hidden Agenda. It's in her book. She mentioned it many times. It's discovering your partner's hidden agenda and your hidden agenda. So that hidden agenda, I'm sure she talked about it in this podcast.
Yeah.
The hidden agenda is the basic DNA why we are with each other, why we're together.
Yeah.
Jadi tanpa disadari, kalau kita attracted to someone, and then we decided to marry them, ya misalnya I decided to marry Ruben, he decided to marry me, gitu ya. It is not a coincidence. We are met by the universe. There's a higher purpose why we are united, gitu. Nah, tapi masalahnya nggak semua couples punya consciousness itu.
Yeah.
Dan aku pun juga nggak punya consciousness itu pada saat aku menikah. Tapi pas aku ikut workshop itu, aku menyadari, oh, this is why I married this guy. This is why I chose him.
Kenapa? Tahu nggak kamu? Can you share?
Okay, salah satu, there's so many reasons ya. Karena hal-hal ini tuh muncul pelan-pelan as time goes by. Okay, it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
But salah satu yang aku sadarin kenapa aku menikah dengan Ruben adalah kita datang dari keluarga yang sangat berbeda kan. I was raised in a shelter, very sheltered, like relatively keluarga harmonis lah gitu ya, walaupun nggak sempurna. I was raised with discipline, I raised with boundaries. Ibuku cenderung sangat bukan galak tapi disiplinnya tinggi gitu. Jam makan kita tahu, tidur jam berapa, semua tuh udah ada sakleknya gitu. Sedangkan he was raised by the werewolves. Yeah, I mean like not literally, not literally, tapi he was literally, basically raised by the werewolves, where the parents have so many children, and he is the youngest, and he was sent to the States when he was very young. So he had no option but to raise himself. So he's basically a lone wolf gitu. Nah, so he lost a lot of direction kan on things lah. I mean, of course the one thing that I adore about my husband is he was willing to like put a pedestal on himself gitu. But of course itu juga karena terjadi lingkungannya waktu dia tinggal di sana itu ya cenderung suportif sama dia. Jadi walaupun dia nggak dapat sosok misalnya sosok father figure atau mother figure yang dia mau, dia dapat dari ibu atau bapak teman-temannya yang sering sering welcoming dia di rumahnya gitu. Like how American families are very warm, right?
Yeah,
They're
the
loud.
parents lah.
Yeah, American families are loud. They're warm and they talk to each other. They sometimes even call each other's names instead of mom or dad. And they're very open and very liberal.
Yeah.
So I think he adapted to that lifestyle a lot, and itu yang dia bawa ke keluarga kita,
Okay.
ke keluarga kita sekarang gitu. Tapi banyak hal-hal yang berbeda banget secara nilai-nilai, dan terutama hubungan suamiku dengan keluarganya dan hubungan dia dengan ibunya. Nah, salah satu hal yang bikin aku menyadari bahwa I think this is why I'm here for him, it's because he didn't have the relationship that I had with my mom, with his mother, gitu. And then being in my family, it filled that gap because finally dia mendapatkan sosok atau what it feels to be loved by a mother,
Yeah.
or what it feels to have a wife who is motherly. Oh, ternyata gini ya yang harusnya ibu sama anak. Karena there was no affection between him and his mother. Tapi I'm very affectionate with my son and my daughter. I'm very affectionate, and I'm not ashamed untuk being affectionate in public because I'm just like I am just a very physical touch aja gitu. And my mom ke aku juga, and my dad juga kayak gitu. Jadi dia jadi belajar, oh it's okay to be affectionate with your spouse, with your kids. I didn't know that, you can do that. Jadi ada hal-hal kebiasaan-kebiasaan yang akhirnya menjadi shift di dalam hidupnya dia dan hidupku juga. Dan itu adalah hanya satu dari sekian banyak hal-hal hidden agenda yang ternyata itu yang dia punya untuk aku dan itu yang aku punya untuk dia.
Okay.
We change each other but very subtly. And we can only see the difference ya setelah kita melihat anak-anak kita kayak apa kan.
Yeah.
Ternyata aku dulu nggak ada nih ngomong kayak gini. Misal Ruben misalnya cerita, tahu nggak Mas, dulu bapak nggak pernah loh pergi berdua sama bapaknya bapak gitu sama eyang bapak. Dulu bapak nggak pernah loh ngomong kayak gini sama yang manis tuh his mom. You're very lucky you can talk like this with your mom and your mom listens to you, and then when you make a mistake, like she doesn't scold you. Like you're very lucky when you make a mistake, like she just automatically forgive you. And house is a safest place to be, and things like that is life changing for me. Karena that's exactly why I'm here for you, because this is like a second chance for him and also for me to do life better. Dulu punya show namanya Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and I grew up watching him when I was in the States. And one of the quotes yang ngebekas banget di aku adalah dia bilang, when you become a parent, you get a second chance of living life better, because you get to do it again, but in a better way, because you remember when you were a child what you didn't like or what you loved.
Yeah.
And then you have to avoid what you didn't like to your own kids. So that's a second chance.
Yeah.
Gitu.
Wow, that's why you write this book and I talk to you.
And that quote is there as the opening of the page.
Yeah,
Fred
oh my
Rogers.
goodness. So it's basically sebenarnya of course this is about your experience
Yes.
dengan anak-anakmu, perbincanganmu
Yes.
dengan anak-anakmu yang selalu dimulai dengan can I talk to you.
Yes.
Right? Tapi aku jadi ngerti kenapa kamu bisa nulis ini just beyond the stories with your kids. It's because your upbringing and then the experience that taught you.
Yeah. And the books that I read.
And the books that you read.
Yeah.
And then the things that you need to unlearn juga mungkin.
Banyak banget. Itu kayak yang tadi aku bilang, aku unlearn banyak hal dari pattern bapak ibuku.
Yeah.
Aku unlearn pattern dari kakek nenekku apa yang aku gak suka. Kayak pak kakekku sangat authoritarian. I don't want to be authoritarian. I want to be authoritative. Jadi aku ada disiplin, tapi aku juga tetap demokrasi, mendengarkan pendapat anak-anak gitu. I don't want to be the only one talking on the dining table. I want everyone to have their own, have their own stories and sessions to share gitu. And I don't want to continue the patterns that passed on from Ruben's parents juga yang nggak baikin. But all the positive things kita carry in our own ship juga gitu. Jadi it's not like kita buang 100%. So the good ones we keep and then we preserve, and the things that udah nggak valuable buat kita ya kita make it irrelevant aja gitu.
I know your kids call you as terutama your son bilang kamu you're the best mom ever.
Yeah.
Tapi what is like apa ya? Kalau kamu can define yourself as a mom, what kind of a mom and a woman you are right now?
I think I'm kind. I think kindness is my anchor as a parent. Among many values yang aku pegang teguh, I think kindness is my anchor in parenting. Kindness is my anchor in wifing. Kindness is my anchor in working, in creating. I think kindness is my strongest reason why I do this gitu. And number 2 is in the honesty. Like I truly believe that if you honest with yourself, you are true to yourself, and that is your superpower. Nobody can take that away from you. And because people can have different opinions about you, right? People can have different perspective and people's perception of you juga bisa different. Tapi if you stay true to yourself, it doesn't matter because you know yourself more than anyone else. And so for me, kindness and honesty is the kind of mother that I am, and that's why my book is brutally honest.
Yeah. Mama.
My book is brutally honest. My platform is brutally honest, and I'm proud to say that I am brutally honest. And I'm brutally honest with my friends. If I don't like something, I will tell them to their face. I will never talk about my friends behind their back. I will either stay quiet or I will say it to you.
Yeah.
But I will never gossip about you to other people.
Yeah.
So it's a promise that I put on myself that gossip will stop with me. If someone talks to me about someone else, then okay, I just like, oh gitu ya. You know, like, but I don't know realitinya bener apa enggak.
Ya, jadi pemutus mata rantai
Iya,
misinformasi.
Iya, apalagi kalau I don't really know that person. And I will say that I'm sorry that I don't know enough to respond. I don't know enough to say anything about that person. But I will take the information, but it doesn't mean I'm approving of it.
Ya.
Gitu.
How do you prepare yourself untuk ngomongin hal-hal yang uncomfortable topics with your kids? Kita di sini baca soal LGBTQ,
Yes.
soal agama,
Yes.
macam-macam. Tapi how do you prepare yourself when they ask questions yang wild gitu sometimes?
I mean, I'm not always prepared. Sometimes ada hari-hari yang aku juga capek. Ada hari-hari yang aku nggak siap ngobrol. Tapi aku selalu bilang sama anak-anak kayak, you know, hold that thought. You know, we'll come back to it. Like, can I continue this conversation tonight when we're both relaxed gitu. Tapi overall, whether I'm prepared or not, I have no choice because I'm a parent. I have to be prepared for whatever comes, ya kan, good or bad. And di situ di belakang buku aku wrote a poem that says that I'm always there. I'm always loving you no matter whether you fail or you succeed, whether you thrive or not gitu. Karena for me, a child should never earn a parent's love. That is a birthright. Like, I feel sad kalau aku ngeliat ada anak-anak yang baru diliatin kasih sayang kalau dia berprestasi, kalau dia menang sesuatu. Dia baru dikasih reward kalau dia tuh melakukan sesuatu yang luar biasa gitu ya.
Yeah.
A child should not earn your love. You should give them love. It is their birthright. Itu hak hidup setiap anak, setiap manusia mendapat kasih sayang dari orang tuanya.
Yeah.
Jadi aku nggak butuh anakku berprestasi baru aku bangga sama dia. Aku nggak butuh anakku hebat ranking 1 atau menang apapun untuk aku sayang sama dia. The minute dia udah di dalam perutku aja aku udah fell deeply in love with them. And for me, I think that kind of love is the factor of them thriving in life because they have no reason to like seek validation from other people karena they feel enough.
Yeah.
And that feeling of enough itu harus datang dari rumah loh, dari orang tuanya. Jadi kalau aku memberikan rasa aman dan cukup untuk anak-anak, they will feel enough leaving the house. And they will find their own purpose in life. It's because of who they are, not because of seeking validation. Atau not because of, they need to fulfill someone else's expectation or the social expectation.
Yeah.
It's because they are true to themselves because they are enough. They are loved enough. And that's my promise. And again, the root is kindness.
Yeah. Yeah.
The root is kindness.
Kalau kamu sistem rewards and punishment ke anak-anak gimana?
Nggak ada. I don't do rewards, I don't do punishments.
So they don't get like apa tuh namanya time out atau apa?
I have consequences, but I don't do timeouts. I don't know. This is an unpopular opinion, but I learned from one of the experts, but I forgot the name. I should credit her, so I will try to find it. I learned that the best consequences for a child when they misbehave, atau when they do something unkind, atau when they, you know, just little things, is to return it with the opposite. So misalnya contoh, Lula kan lagi di fase yang remaja, so she's a bit bitter, her tone can be condescending. Biasalah, I was like that too. I mean, I'm sure you were too.
We all did.
Our tone bisa a little bit condescending, and then she can be very very dominant, ya kan, apalagi sama adiknya, ya kan. Jadi dia selalu pengen nyuruh gitu, ya kan, selalu pengen diikutin. So she can be unkind, but I know she doesn't mean it, but she can be unkind sometimes when she's like being emotional. I don't do punishments. I
Yeah.
don't do, but I also don't like give her a reward for that kind of behavior. But I will say that you know the consequences of you being like that to your brother, right? So the consequences is she will have to do something kind for him as opposed to her behavior. So when she was being unkind, kayak misalnya kayak dia ngasih adiknya ngelempar gitu ya. I don't like that. So when you give something to someone, you have to make sure that that thing is well received in their hands.
Yeah.
Jadi aku paling sebel kalau ngeliat orang ngasih dilempar.
Yeah.
Ya kan? It's very disrespectful. So one time I saw her did that. Dia ngelempar pensil apa gitu ke adiknya. Jadi adiknya minta pensil tuh, here gitu. Dia ngasihnya kesel gitu. I was angry. I said, you were not that far. You could actually come to him, you know, and give it to him. So the consequences is think of anything that you can do to repair that, because that's not who you are. You are kind. Can you repair that with kindness? So that's what I do at home. Aku pun juga gitu, Din. Kalau misalnya aku lagi melakukan kesalahan, which I always do, I make a lot of mistakes. Tapi I try to acknowledge it, take accountability, and that I repair it. And the way I repair it is, yeah, I do what I can do, being kind to them. Misalnya aku nggak sengaja marah atau ngebentak mereka nggak sengaja, and I will say that was not okay. I raised my voice for something that is not that important. Ya kan, I lost my temper. Okay, so abis itu aku akan do something kind to them. Whether I cook them nice meal, whether I simply give them an embrace, I hug them, whether just cuddle and tell them that they're special and I'm sorry that I was like that. I don't do rewards and punishment because I don't believe being kind needs to have a reward, and I don't believe a misconduct needs to have a punishment. Justru this is something yang aku kadang sedih ya melihat kayak banyak anak-anak yang masih remaja sudah masuk penjara gitu ya. Anak-anak yang masih kecil-kecil melakukan kesalahan, mereka harus masuk penjara. What they need is love and guidance. They need to be shown what love is. They do brutal acts or actions is because they had no example at home. They see that from someone else. They mimic that from someone else, whether it's from a movie, whether they're from their own parents and abusive. So they adapt that abusive behavior. And is it fair to punish them for that abusive behavior when they learn it from someone else? They learn it from their parents. I don't think it's fair. I think what we need is, ya kita harus kasih mereka penyuluhan, kasih mereka edukasi, ngasih mereka something that can sustain peradaban. Kalau mereka langsung ujuk-ujuk dihukum, it doesn't benefit the society.
Yeah, that's true. Knowing what you know now, dari pengalamanmu, from the teachings that you have experienced, do you know your why in this world?
Of course.
Apa?
I'm here as a vessel of love, and I'm here to carry a message to myself and to the people around me.
Yeah.
What's possible, and that kindness should always be a way of life. And then I don't believe that I'm here as a coincidence. I mean, because there is no such thing as a coincidence. I think we are all born with a very unique purpose.
Yeah.
And I believe this is a very interesting conversation I had last night with my mom, that kita akan dipertemukan sama orang-orang yang selaras dengan nilai hidup kita. And I don't believe in the concept of heaven and hell. I believe that we can create heaven on earth. If I can create heaven on earth, then I will go to heaven. I will die going to heaven because I'm already in heaven. And that's my promise to myself, to my family, to my children, that I will create heaven for you at home. And so that we don't have to die to go to heaven. We are already in heaven. And so that's a message that I think I carry within myself and to whatever that I'm doing.
Wow. That Kania, I'm so happy. I'm so grateful to be able to talk to you.
Thank you.
And people, please buy the book. Masih ada di toko buku. Cari
Yes.
di online juga ada. Please buy the book. It's a book yang tidak hanya soal parenting, but also about being a human.
Yes, it's about growth.
It's about growth. Thank you so much, Kak. Thank you. Being here with me.
Mereka kalau perusahaan kabur tuh ke Singapura, mereka tinggalin tuh Indonesia, mereka cuma nguntungin ini. Ya saya nggak bermaksud rasis, ini otokritik saya terhadap komunitas saya ya. Kita itu hari ini jadi Cina, jadi Konghucu itu given. Kita tuh nggak pernah bisa milih jadi apa. Dulu ada Edi Tansil, kebetulan satu marga sama saya tuh, kasus Bapindo terkenal dulu zaman kita masih SMA.
Iya.
Dia bisa maling berapa triliun tuh dulu. Ya kalau nggak ada ACC dari pejabat mana bisa.
Mana bisa sih itu. Iya.
Kan gitu loh maksudnya.
Please jangan lupa subscribe channel Cauldron Content.